Welcome to the Stubblefield Report. I'm Jomo Stubblefield. It is a cautionary tale of betrayal at its worst. A father entrusted with protecting his children, violating that trust by engaging in unspeakable acts of sexual violence against his own underage daughters. Tobiah Bowen, the then administrator of Redemption Hospital, was recently arrested and charged with rape of a 14-year-old child. That arrest ignited conversations about the prevalence of sexual assault in the Liberian community, which led to the recent demonstrations against rape on the streets of Monrovia. The arrest of Tobias Bowen also compelled his former girlfriend, Rudine Dennis, and his biological daughter with Rudine, Nakita Bowan, to speak out about years of sexual abuse at the hands of her father, Tobias. Abuse that started, she says, when she was barely out of her toddler years. But this is not a story about Tobias Bowen and his reported crimes against his children. It's about courage and the resilience of the human spirit, of how a brave and determined young woman decided to come forward and tell her story, where it could serve as an inspiration to other young girls finding themselves in similar situations.
We want those that are raping our children, our grandchildren, to be persecuted.
A powerful statement against sexual violence by ordinary Liberians, taking to the streets, demanding action for harsher punishment for the perpetrators of rape and to designate crimes against humanity. All this in the wake of the recent arrest of the former Redemption Hospital boss, Tobias Bowen, who was arrested in July for the rape of a 14-year-old girl. According to people familiar with the case, this protest is a direct result of Bowen's sexual crimes against children going back years.
Another friend of mine called me and said, "Have you researched Syracuse newspaper?" I said, "What happened in there?" I said, "Oh, go online and search Syracuse newspaper and you will see." So when I researched it, when I went online and did the search, and I saw his picture pop up with a story that he had been arrested in Syracuse for molesting two children, one under 17 and one under 13.
Comfort Rudine Dennis had a romantic relationship with Tobias Bowen that resulted in the birth of a child. Hearing the news that Bowen was arrested and charged with child sexual abuse was a surprise, but little did she know that surprise will turn into horror when she learned that one of the victims was the daughter she had with Bowen.
I was shocked.
A mother's pain, unbearable, realizing her worst nightmare. Rudine says to this day she has not recovered from learning that Tobias Bowen had preyed on his own daughter, subjecting her to years of sexual abuse that started almost immediately upon the child's arrival to Europe to live with him and his wife.
This is somebody who the both of us, have this child. What cruelty. Or even up to now, I don't like to imagine it. Just imagining him, touching my child. And this is his child.
Rudine says because of the war in Liberia, sending her daughter to live with her father in Holland, where Tobias had settled, was a no-brainer. Little did she know she was sending her baby to a sexual predator who happens to be her father.
It started when I was about 6 years old.
Nakita Bowan, biological daughter of Tobias Bowen, says at the tender age of 6, she was often terrified when it was bedtime, knowing that her father would be making his way to her bedroom.
At 6, you really don't know what's going on. You put full trust in your parents. You don't necessarily think that they're going to betray you. But that's what happened for several years. The relationship my father and I had was not like a normal relationship between a daughter and a father. Unfortunately, it took about 11 years for me to become free. It took 11 years for me to not have to worry about being able to sleep fully throughout the night and be safe. So in short terms, I went through 11 years of abuse, and I don't want to carry this on with me anymore. And this is my closure.
According to Nakita, the years went by slowly as her father continues his assault on her. It left her insecure and scared. His wife at the time worked the night shift as a nurse, giving him hours to prey on the child. About a dozen years later, Nakita, just a newly minted teenager, got the courage to stand up to her father.
I was at the age of 14. 14 is a difficult age. You're starting to, I don't know, like boys, like girls. You're starting to become yourself. You're starting, you're going through puberty. You're doing all these changes. And I started to realize, like, this feels foreign. This doesn't feel right. I feel disgusting after this happens. And how am I supposed to have a boyfriend whilst this is happening? That was the exact thought in that moment that came to me that allowed me to realize that, hey, this isn't supposed to be happening. This is not what normal relationships are like. I actually sat my father down when I realized it, and he shrugged it off.
Nakita says at 14 years old, she confronted her father and begged him to stop the abuse, hoping her plea would appeal to whatever decency he had left. But his response left her disappointed and hopeless.
I sat this man across the table like an adult at 14 years old. And I said, I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't right. And this man had the audacity to tell me that I would be a prisoner for the rest of my life.
Nakita says her father then turned his attention to his much younger daughter.
He moved on when I became strong enough to say no, and he moved on to a 10-year-old. My younger sister at the time was only 10. She was a baby. She was the sweetest child, God-fearing at 10. She was in love with Jesus, and that's something I couldn't wrap my head around, is how such an innocent child could become not a victim, but become someone he targeted, someone that was his own child.
Nakita says her father gave her tons of justification for his actions, suggesting that his sexual advances towards her was out of love.
This one's a little tough for me to say, but he said that a girl's first love is their father. Now, watching a lot of my friends, I can see how that's true. But in my case, it wasn't true. Excuses like, no one will ever believe you anyway. Excuses like, I have to make you feel loved. I wasn't being loved. I was being harmed. That isn't love. Love is wrapping your arms around me and telling me that everything's going to be okay, not invading my personal, emotional, and physical space the way that he did. And I told myself I was going to be so strong today. I told myself I was not going to allow this man to take another tear out of my eyes. But it's not him I'm crying for. It's the fact that these young girls had to sit in the exact same position I sat in. And he throws them money. Like that is supposed to give back a virginity that you take. I was supposed to have that choice, sir. I was supposed to have that choice who I gave it to, whether it was wrong or not. I wasn't allowed to have that choice.
He had molested her and told her that it was something that is common in Liberia. So I said, no, it's not. It's not a norm of the Liberian society, and it's not.
Today, Nakita is a thriving, confident young woman. A far cry from where she was just a few years ago. She still struggles with what she endured, but she says she has come to terms with what happened to her and has a message for her father.
You have taken 11 years of my childhood. It has taken me several years to fix what you have done wrong, but I am happy now. I am strong now, and you will never ever hurt me again. I will not defend you. I will not stand by you. You are not my father. You are no one to me. I have disowned you just like you disowned your duty to be an actual real father, a real man. And because you've decided those choices, you're gonna miss out on one of the greatest things that ever happened to you, which is me, Nakita Bowan, me.
According to sources, Tobias Bowen has been relieved of his duties at Redemption Hospital, but people are asking, how can a fugitive from justice, accused and convicted of crimes against children, be in charge of a government hospital with unfettered access to children. Nakita says she refuses to be her father's legacy and vowed to dedicate her life to serving others who find themselves in similar situation. Now stay tuned because part 2 of this story is forthcoming with the entire unedited interview with Nakita and Rudine, with excerpts not included in today's story. Thank you for joining us. We see you next time on the Stubblefield Report.